Hey, what's going on, my pen pals? It's been a lot of work, but our first episode of Simply Go with Byte Together is finally out, where we talk about how technology will shape work in the future. So despite what Western society and hustle culture will tell you, there is a lot more to life than just working or, the grind. But of course, work is still a part of daily life. And as many of us are in high school or pursuing higher education, it's really important that we have the necessary tools. So all of the sources we'll be using will be in the description, so if you want a bite of that action, keep watching. First of all, I think it's important to delve into some important technological drivers. Some of the more go-tos I can mention that you guys probably already know are like AI and robotics, particularly AI, which can be used by students and organizations. I have a script over here, by the way. Can be used by students and organizations to automate some tasks. There's some contention over whether AI and workers can work hand in hand if AI is more delegated to, autonomous, like technical tasks, like all the boring stuff, whereas humans can work on more creative stuff, like more stuff, involving customer service and interacting with clients, etc. So especially as an artist and writer myself, I have my own reservations when it comes to using AI to generate art or writing, because, that's the real concern about taking people's jobs that people are talking about. So, the point is, to conclude all this up, AI has its pros and cons, kind of like the Industrial Revolution. I just hope we're able to use it responsibly. Now, my mom, she works a remote job, and during the age of the pandemic, I think a lot of us kind of familiarized ourselves with technology such as Zoom. So the reason I bring this up is because the pandemic gave us the opportunity to properly familiarize ourselves with tools such as Zoom, as I mentioned earlier, and, cloud computing. In my opinion, cloud computing and video conferencing are absolutely a game changer because they make remote work an option and expand the ways we can collaborate with each other. Which actually leads me to the next segment of this video, which is going to be the changing nature of jobs. So I already briefly touched on earlier how tech innovations can both help and hurt workers. However, I want to go more in depth with how automation can affect certain industries. Robots and AI-driven automation have already run their course on manufacturing centers, assembly lines, and warehouses, as many people-run factory jobs are starting to be automated. Customer service, finance, accounting, healthcare, and law are also starting to be automated, as virtual assistants can handle customers while AI-powered software can handle bookkeeping and document analysis. When I went to my sister's college dorm in Arizona, my family, we noticed that there was a lot of self-driven cars just running around, which means taxi drivers are also being replaced. All this does prove to be helpful in some situations. However, it does prove to be very scary in other situations. So later in this video, I will kind of talk about ethics and how we as humans can handle all of these scary changes. Of course, a lot of people have already responded to these changes. Technology helps to facilitate a lot more remote work, so some people, like my mom, can work completely remote, while other people are running whole businesses or organizations remotely. For example, Simply Code, which is the one creating this whole video, is a completely remote nonprofit organization which allows people to earn volunteer hours completely from their own home. So what we are seeing in the world now is that a lot more people are working more remotely, and a lot of people are using technology to become freelancers or self-employed. The way these freelancers or entrepreneurs provide for themselves is, of course, through the use of social media, which I will kind of get more into later, how social media and technology and business kind of interacts. So if you're interested in starting your own business or side hustle, you can take advantage of short-form content by promoting your services on Instagram or TikTok. And, I've seen a lot of people promote the services on long-form content such as YouTube as well. The reason I decided to make Byte Together, this YouTube format, production, is because I saw a lot of similar stuff on YouTube, such as Crash Course or Privileged Few Productions or Odd Compass or things like that. Also, there are a lot of people that make a living literally just by posting on social media, like influencers or YouTubers and stuff like that. These people use brand deals as well as the interaction from their audience in order to do so. Also, another way people have responded to these changes is literally by creating or, expanding existing jobs towards AI. This includes AI and robotics engineers or data scientists specializing in AI and human professionals interpreting AI insights in fields such as healthcare. So I hope everything I listed kind of encapsulated the future of jobs in a palatable way. Now let's move on to what all this implies for society and the economy. A big thing to expect going forward is that technology or jobs surrounding technology will be of high demand. So learning a coding language might be helpful. I might actually have to get onto that. Even if you don't work for a technology company, you could always use it as like a side hustle or something like that. However, a lot of people may be disadvantaged because we live in a period where the global economy is so intimately tied to technology revolutions, and not everyone has access to the same kinds of technology, which is where governments and UBI policies could come in handy. Because of how integrated the global economy is with technology, another big, particularly societal effect we are seeing, kind of like what I briefly foreshadowed earlier, is that social media is becoming increasingly commercialized. I often see businesses jumping on TikTok trends to promote their products, and of course YouTube ads are getting longer, and a lot of short-form social medias are increasingly getting filled with advertisements everywhere you go. Now, if you are trying to start a business, social media is extremely helpful, and I don't mean to dissuade anyone. But if you are the average social media user, content advertising can sometimes become very pervasive. I think a big thing to keep in mind when trying to monetize your work online is authenticity. Make sure you are speaking from your heart, because once you master yourself, you master the whole world. Also, the reason why artists such as Doechii and Kendrick Lamar are able to make waves in the music industry, more recently, is because they are authentic and know how to stand out. Anyways, let's move on to some ethical considerations. So I mentioned earlier that people are using AI to generate art and writing, which were creative pursuits, originally performed by people who had to work hard for years in order to get to a place where they can monetize their work. AI has also been used to generate realistic photographs, and more recently AI has been used to generate voice recordings that sound like real people, or videos, that resemble real people or situations, or could literally just be made up people. So while AI has been useful for automating certain tasks, within a professional setting, we have to examine what this entails for other endeavors, both within and outside a professional setting. A big thing is that we might see more cybercrime or, phishing and scams. A huge thing to remember is AI is not only meticulous in replicating real life, but also very easily accessible, which means virtually anyone can use AI to generate fake content or take advantage of real people, which is really scary, and I think more people should talk about it. Also, people tend to forget that generative AI takes a lot of energy and often capitalizes off of the labor of people in less developed countries, which is why some people are trying to implement green tech or renewable technology that does less harm to the environment. We'll talk about this in a later episode, but just for the sake of it, I will talk about some of it. Some of it includes electric cars, the Internet of Things or IoT being implemented in buildings or houses, e-waste recycling, and green hydrogen, which one of our researchers, Alex, has actually done a research paper on. Another thing to remember is that not everyone has access to the same evolutions in technology. I kind of touched on this earlier, but because of how much our connection with each other is starting to rest on the shoulders of technology, underdeveloped areas with less access to technology will have a weaker connection to the global economy or even mainstream society in general. And if we want to move forward using these technological developments, we should start considering doing so in a more ethical manner. So if you made it to the end of this video, then, it's good to see you again. Before I sign off for tonight, I kind of want to delve into what we as individuals can do, like a kind of call for action. Despite all the harm technology is doing, we can still try to cultivate positive, human-oriented communities. We can also try and educate ourselves and people around us about what nuance in technology, so we can be better equipped for the future, and which is kind of what Byte Together is trying to do. We can also try to increase fair access to technology by, petitioning for better legislation. However, all this starts with believing that the world and all of its people are worth helping. And for that to happen, we have to believe that we deserve to live in a happier, healthier future. Thank you.